yet award-winning. That's 6++ plus show. Tom is a traitor. He's been fired. He played for some chumps called England over the weekend, and we've decided that no, you're not allowed to host 6++ show anymore. So it's me, Chris. I'm now the one and only host, the true heir to the throne of the podcast. And we are here today to tell you all about our weekend, because 6++ had a lovely time, as always, at the International Team Tournament. The spring version, because, you know, we're now doing one every quarter. And we took 3 teams, and we had a ball. We won some games, we lost some games, we drew some games, and we're here to tell you all about it. And we'll also do a little bit of self-promotion, because rumour has it we're quite possibly the best at it. But of course, it's not just going to be me rabbiting on. I am joined by a couple of lovely chappies. So let's dive straight in, because obviously we've got people waiting, ready to type in aggressively that we're talking too long about the not topic. So let's start with Tom Sensei. Scrivo, how are you, sir?
I'm really good. I feel quite rested after the long weekend, because apparently playing for vibes is quite restful and relaxing. So
that's what I like to hear. Did you have was it a nice relaxing Monday, or did you have to go and do real world stuff?
I had to work on Monday, so not quite the nice lazy day everyone else got, but it's not too bad. Toy shops on a bank holiday is pretty chill.
Okay.
Can't complain. Really
Nice. And then we're also joined by Mr. Jack Chapman for 2 weeks in a row. Crazy.
I know.
How are you?
I'm doing really good. I played some excellent Warhammer on the weekend.
Very nice.
And I stayed in bed until 3 o'clock on the Monday.
That is the 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I know, right? See, I have no responsibilities and a job that doesn't require us to do anything on bank holidays. So, yeah, just get to do whatever the fuck I want.
Living the dream. 3 p.m. I remember those glory days when I was like 18,
right.
college. Oh, good times.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Wow. We have got some people watching us, and they are very excited to hear how we always find ITT. So the ITT, fun fact for you all, ITT podcast is our most listened to podcast episode this whole year. Okay, so podcast listeners love this stuff. YouTube viewers, not so much. This won't get as many views on YouTube, so screw all of you. However, podcast listeners, we love you guys. Generally, this show is people from other teams who played wanting to hear us say nice things about them. So we'll see if we can manage that. Speaking of which, we've got John C saying evening. Hello, John. We've got Alexic saying hope Jack says nice things about us. Jack, do you actually know who Alexic is?
Not by his username. I was about to ask. Say what team you're on.
Don't say it. Don't tell Jack, and then we'll just see if he just
watch him slip.
Don't tell Jack. Yeah, you sound like my team at the weekend. Don't tell him anything. Just to give no information. Let him do everything.
Picture Rocker, hello, and Ultimate Funk says, "Fine, I'll fuck off and listen to it later." No, don't leave us, Dave. We love you, Dave. We love you.
Yeah. We make money when you watch it on YouTube, and we don't when you. No.
That is a good point. Yeah. That is a good point. Yeah, we do need to get more YouTube views. Share the love, guys. Before we dive into our exciting topic, though, a bit of self-promotion. Time of talking is 8:35. 1 hour and 35 minutes ago, you may have noticed your internet struggling. And that was because people across the country were diving onto the 6++ website to try and buy a ticket for our grand tournament. And in fact, some people managed it. We may have had the odd bit of technical difficulty because PayPal is silly. However, there were 42 tickets at 7 p.m. At this time, only an hour and a half in, there are currently, I'm pressing refresh on 6++gaming.com, there are currently only 5 tickets remaining. We'll take that. That's pretty impressive, isn't it? Dave, you in fact did dive in. I have got your ticket, don't worry, sir. So maybe this will sell out over the course of this show. So if you're interested in coming to a very high quality event with WTC trained scoring, 42 player event, little goodie bag, loads of prizes, even more prizes than last time, and most importantly, the best vibes you will find at any tournament. That is a promise. Then August the 23rd and 24th, we are hosting our next GT in Hemel Hempstead in the south. So yeah, if you want to be one of those few remaining people who get to come to our event, then go and grab a ticket. The link is in the chat, and if you're watching this after the fact, it's probably already sold out. Sorry. Anyway, ITT International Team Tournament. It's been going on for 3 years, 4 years now. It's become a major fixture. UKTC have done their classic thing, haven't they? Of, oh, this seems to be going really well. Let's just do more of them. So we've now got one every quarter. And we generally, these days, always take 3 or 4 teams. So these teams were Alpharius, Omegon and Legion, and I'm joined by members of all the teams today. So we'll start with you, Mr. Scrivo. Talking about Legion, do you want to tell us who was in your wonderful team and what armies they took?
Right, so my team was captained by the lovely Dave Murdoch with his oddly Grey Knights, which seemed very fitting. A Grey Knight with Grey Knights. And then we had Jamie East playing his aggressive Custodes list. Then we had Patrick, who hadn't been to ITT with us before, with his Drakari. And then we had Steve with his Tyranids. Rounding it off, we had me with a really, really smooth-brained 15 Deathwing Knights in Stormlance, shove it into people's faces, Dark Angels list.
It was very smooth-brained, Scrivo.
Yeah.
I hope people told you about that all weekend.
Yeah, got it a few times.
Yeah, I bet you did, yeah. And how did preparation go for this event?
So we did a matrix. We filled it out Wednesday, Thursday. We just basically went, is it good, is it bad? And then we'll wing it. It was very much a bit more laid back. Everyone's approach to it, because we kind of sat, when we first got kind of all paired into a team, we were all like, how do we want to approach this, guys? Are we all really thirsty to try to get somewhere up there? Or are we just going for a good time, not a long time? And very much the opinion was Patrick hadn't been before, Steve hadn't been on a team with us or had been once before. Yeah, and we're very much like, they just wanted to just have some good games, get some reps in. So we just kind of went, right, no pressure on each other, let's just play. And that was quite nice. Yeah. It was really nice.
Just going, roll some dice with your friends. Like, what more could you want, me? Love it. Excellent. So that set the scene. But Legion, they're going to have a good time, and we'll rate how they did at the weekend based on how much fun they had. That's fair enough. Over to you, Jack. Omegon, then talk us through how that went down.
Yeah, so we were captained by Rob of Podcast Fame, and the armies that we were taking was myself on Kauyon Tau. Rob, he switched from his normal Drukari over to Yunari. We had Connor on the Emperor's Children, the Triple Demon Prince build. We had Tom on Sisters. He's also a Tau player, so he just had to pick his only other army. And we had another Jack on Abmech again. This is once again the staple of Omegon is him on the old Abmech. He's doing the Rad Zone build.
Nice. Faction specialists quite often find themselves into it. And how was preparation for you guys?
Yeah, pretty good. We kind of find ourselves in an awkward position. I'm sure Alpharius does this as well, where you can go 4-1, you can go, you can win your first 4 rounds. So do you look at it and like, let's try and pick out the best teams and just do a matrix for all of them? But like, it's not really worth it, because a lot of the time all that effort is just wasted, and it's enough work to get people to do one matrix before the event.
Yes.
So I decided not to do that wisely, as it turned out. So we just did the one petty matrix for our first round opponent, which we did by, I think it was like 6 o'clock on the day the pairings came out. So we were pretty eager, and yeah, that was basically how much prep we went in. We did a lot of prep on like team comp. Because we normally go 3-2 on Omegon, so we really wanted to try and push that to a 4-1 this time around. So yeah, we did a lot, and we had still the stars were kind of aligning in the way the meta was looking at. So we really thought we could do a lot on that front. So we managed to put together what I think is a pretty solid comp. Yeah, so mainly that on the prep front.
Excellent. In terms of Alpharius, we had Lee on Creations of Bile. We had JP on Tyranids. We had Harley on Guards. We had Alex on Chaos Knights, and myself on Yunari. This comp came about with a lot of hard work, to be honest with you. Like our previous 2 events, we felt that we hadn't got the composition quite right. When we thought we were okay, and then we came to pairings, and actually the plan fell down, and we were kind of getting our way through with more sort of player skill and trying to get a bit lucky with pairings in terms of who we played. So this time we were really, really keen to get it right. So we had Harley, who was going to be the guard player, who was kind of like that first defender, be able to. I mean, he did the classic. I could be anything, guys. So he was there for that first defender kind of role. We had JP on Tyranids, who did build that kind of blunting, but also potentially first defender role as well. So we had 2 armies that we could put down as first defender to hunt for that light board. Lee had a chaos choice, and eventually he ended up on Creations of Bile, which I do genuinely believe was the right choice there. I decided to take a departure from the Grey Knights. Eldor were up for grabs. Yunari, obviously, incredibly important, quite powerful at the moment, aren't they? So it made sense for me to, rather than grab those draws, I try and win some games, which for me was a bit terrifying because I don't really get to practice much these days. So I was hoping that I could just kind of black my way through it. And then the big one was Alex. So Alex was going to be on Orcs. And then when we did our initial matrix, we realized that no one really wanted to play into Chaos Knights. We thought, well, maybe we should then have Chaos Knights. And we were able to get hold of them. So Alex went into the event having never played with Chaos Knights and using a borrowed army, which is absolutely what you should not do at a team event, especially if you're trying to do well. So we'll find out how that went over those games. We did matrix the top teams because the reason I like to do it is because just by doing that, you start to notice patterns in other teams. And it just helps me start to get my head around sort of the processes and that sort of thing, and just helps you to get a vibe for how your matrix is looking, so that when you go into the real thing and start playing other teams, it's just a bit quicker and smoother. So that's why we did that. But yeah, we felt like we had a really, really good comp, and we felt like we were quite confident going into this event. So with that, the pairings came out. Legion, you had who first round?
The Wooden Spoon Collectors.
You had the Wooden Spoon Collectors. So that must mean that they always come last at tournaments, right, Scriven?
No, these guys were cheeky. I feel like it was misrepresented because they were very competent gamers.
They were. One of them is a chap called Robbie, who just started coaching. He's worked with Tom as well. And I'd actually spent the Monday sitting down with him, talking through his sister's army, working out the deployments, giving him some advice on pairings and what to put down and that sort of thing. So sorry about that.
It's all right.
But how did this round go for you guys?
Well, the round actually started at about 8 o'clock on Friday when we walked into the hotel lobby, and Arthur, the captain of the team, literally goes, "We're playing you in the morning." I go, "What? Okay."
Yeah.
So, and then he starts telling me about all the prep they'd done, and I was there going, "Cool, we'll probably shuffle the cards." And he just looked at me in shock, just like, "What?" type of thing. Yeah. So it's just it started off with a bit of patter and banter to it. So knowing that we were going into some kind of quite chilled, fun-looking guys, Saturday morning we just rolled up, tried our best. I think we paired okay. Yep. I think the only thing that really kind of went a bit awry is that we ended up getting a Custodes mirror off between Arthur and Jamie. And I think Arthur had a bit more experience in what could go wrong and right there.
Okay.
And I think Jamie kind of was on the wrong foot with it because it ended up being a 17-3 for him. But outside of that, I think it was okay. But a few of the matchups didn't quite go to plan. Like Patrick had his first game into Orcs at the event, and he got pretty horrendously beaten by Dom, unfortunately, and got 20 owed, which was rough to start, but he
I
dusted
mean,
himself off.
Drakari into Green Tide is
It's
quite
not
possibly
nice.
one of the worst matchups
Yeah.
I could think of. So I do feel
So
that
someone had to take it.
yeah, you just thought you'd throw the new guy under
Well,
the bus. Nice, yeah.
What was interesting is we kind of, as a team, we went through as we were pairing, kind of looked and went, right, if this person takes it, it frees up the other 4 to have better pairings.
Yep.
And so the theory was that we'd at least kind of try to give like Steve a chance.
As long as Jamie didn't shit the bed in the mirror.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Jamie did a little bit. But then he very much took it on his shoulders and went, I had a rough game, sorry guys. And it was like, we were all like, cool man, it happens.
And that's the important thing, right? Rallying around.
Yeah, and Dave thought he was getting kind of a drawish game, ended up getting 14 points into World Eaters, which was good because that can go quite wrong. And I went into the Blood Angels, which I haven't gone into Angelic Inheritors before, so I didn't quite know how much to respect them. So I did a sensible thing and just disrespected them and just threw myself forward. And I got 19-1. 10 minutes after the game was finished, I went, if I'd moved that Reaver unit 1 inch more towards his unit that was on the objective, they would have been within 3 inches, and he would have got primary last turn, and it would have been a 20-0. Not the end of the world, but we lost the round by 1 point.
Yeah, so suddenly that was
like, oh God, no.
It really hurts. And this is such a classic thing in teams. Like when you have that really close round, either a draw or win or loss, like whatever way, you fall just the wrong side. Quite often, every player will have a story of how, well, actually, if this one thing had happened, we would have got this and we would have then won the round. And in this case, obviously, it's all your fault.
100%. So I took it. I took it on the chin.
Absolutely.
I failed the guys in my 19 points.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's hey, like Wooden Spoon Collectors, well done, guys.
Great game.
It was a great game, and that's the important thing, right? Yeah. You've come for vibes. Are vibes 5 out of 5 so far?
I'd say so. And the best bit is about 3 times outside of that round, people I knew paired into them, and they went, "Oh, what are these guys like?" And I went, "Amazing." And then they come back and go, "Had a great game." And I'm like, "Yes, this is what I want to hear." Like hearing people having great fun was just really nice to hear.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well done, Wooden Spoon Collectors. Now, Omegon, you have a history with ITT, and it's quite a consistent history, and that is that the pairings gods do not like you. I think it would be fair to say that the same one at Alpharius quite often get reasonably lucky with their pairings. Omegon do not. It is pretty horrendous for you guys. So what we were looking for here was a nice, smooth, steady start. Just ease yourself in. And that's what happened, right?
Yeah, we broke the curse, guys. We got hang on. Check my clipboard. England? Not heard of them. Don't know who they are.
No.
Not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
It was England cup of tea. So they had Custody Spearhead. They had Tyranid Invasion Fleet, general good stuff. They had a very interesting Orc build for Dreadmob and triple Gorka Morkanaut. Bunch of scoring nonsense. They had 6 monster demons. And then they had Host of Ascension GSC, piloted by the traitorous Tom Lohman. So this round, when we first did the pairings, we kind of, I think the team as a whole fell victim to the thing that sometimes can happen when you're doing pairings for top teams, which is no one predicted above a draw, which is ridiculous. Just a big recommendation for anyone doing pairings at an ITT or whatever, don't pair on player skill, just pair on armies, because otherwise, why have you even turned up if you're not going to try, right? You just got to give it your best shot and go for it. Now, obviously, not the favorite team in this situation, but however, after going through the pairings again, there were a couple of matchups that we think will look good on paper. And a lot of these lists are pretty wonky. And by the England's team's own admission, they didn't do a ton of prep on this one. They were kind of just sending it. So I think if we were ever going to beat an England team, it was going to be this round.
Absolutely.
And I have, you have to bear with me, I have this clipboard. I decided I was going to write down everything that we did in like in terms of who paired into what, which would be really useful for going back over now, where we could talk about the pairing process and stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't fill it in. I got someone else to fill it in, and it's just gibberish. It's just I have no idea what's going on. So you have to bear with me while I try and
decipher it.
stumble through this.
I love things written in crayon. It's my favourite.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very blunt pencil on one of these pages. Right, so what we decided to do in the end was first defend with Ynnari. There was only one absolutely disastrous matchup for the Ynnari, and that was the GSC, so we just wanted to avoid that. Everything else was kind of middling there, so that's what we decided to go with. And they decided to first defend with the Orcs, which we decided to offer them Admech and Tau, which we felt, Admech was definitely a list that the Orcs didn't want to see with the double breaches. So we really wanted to see if we could get that. And then we had the Tau as well. No real particularly up and down matchups there, but I did take a bit more anti-tank in my carrying list than I usually do. So, that should be fine. So that ended up being, they offered into us GSC and Demons. So we took the Demons because the GSC was the one thing we wanted to avoid. So it ended up being Ynnari into Demons, which we had down as a sort of drawish game, and we picked the heavy board for that, mainly because we wanted to take it away for our other players, make sure we didn't force any of our other players onto the heavy board. And we had their Orcs were into our Tau, and that was on a standard board. Our second defender, we decided to go with EC. My general pairing strategy here was I wanted to try and get good matchups for the Ynnari and the EC. In this case, the Ynnari didn't have a good run of it, so I decided to focus on the EC, Emperor's Children, and then the England team defended with their Custodes. I can't read what it says next, but I do know that they attacked with GSC and something else. So we decided to go with the Emperor's Children into the GSC because we know that's a good matchup for the Emperor's Children. So we want to try and focus on that one and try and get a win out of it. The Custodes ended up playing into the Sisters of Battle. That was more of a blunter army for us, so we were hoping that could just keep it nice and stable. There's a lot of OC in that list, and there's a lot of just like trash that can stand around and body block and do stuff like that. So hopefully that's going to be good against the Dreads. And then, lastly, that left the Adeptus Mechanicus against the Tyranids. The Emperor's Children GSC was on the light board as well, for what it was worth. So we predicted 4 draws and a win for the Emperor's Children. It didn't quite work out like that, unfortunately. So the Ynnari ended up playing, into the Demons. According to reports from Rob on the ground on the day, it's kind of just a misplay, not exactly having played against that type of Demons list before. There's a couple of things in there that really threw him off, like the Rotigus -1 OC can take you to 0. He didn't account for that, so it made contesting primary very difficult for him. The Sisters and Custodes was super hard fought, and it was really close for the whole game, to be fair. That ended up as a 14-6 loss for the Sisters. But I'm pretty happy with like that kind of blunting roll from that army, so that's not the worst thing in the world. The Adeptus Mechanicus lost 14-6 to the Tyranids. Again, it was a massive fight in that, and that one really looked really bloody, very stodgy in the midboard, but the Nids ended up coming out on top. The Emperor's Children into the GSC was a 14-6 loss to us as well. According to Tom and Connor on the day, he was saying that he should have just full pushed into it turn 1 and just like not given the GSC any prep to go for anything. But he decided to hold it back for a turn, and that kind of while Tom did pretty much get tabled in that game, he was able to build up enough score early on that he was able to hold the game. And then myself into the Orcs, I got a big fat 0. So I put that game down as drawish. I think that estimation goes down slightly in Terraform on that map, just because there's a lot of like a lot of high OC, like there's grots and there's boys and all that stuff everywhere. It's a bit of a nightmare. So that probably puts it sort of like probably 8 max. He did get first turn as well, which again pushes it down because going first on Terraform is stronger than going second, well, at least in my opinion, especially if you have a large board control army like that. But the thing I really didn't take into account was how the towering models play on the round 1 map on Terraform. So if you have a towering model, I don't have the map to show you guys, but there's a ruin if you're standing at the table on the far right hand side that is in front of an objective that you can deploy in. If you're in that ruin and you tow onto it with a towering model, you can just see the entire board, and into the opponent's deployment zone there is nowhere to hide apart from your large ruin, which is fine. Not so fine if you're an all vehicle army and then can't get out of said ruin. If your vehicles are 6 inches wide and they literally can't get out. So that put a lot of pressure on me that was quite difficult to deal with. And what I should have done here is I should have played it super slow, just let him have all the primary that he wants early doors. I can't really stop him. And then wait for my Callion to come online and try and blow him off the board. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was Jack going first. He ended up exposing some of the Gorkamorkanauts. I took the opportunity to shoot them. I did kill one, which I don't think I do on average. I think I roll really good. But to be honest, the payoff wasn't worth the risk that I was taking because it caused me to expose basically, most of my army. And then that allowed him to call the war and all in me. And he basically got everything that he wanted and more. So, we had a unit of tank busters that sat in the middle of the board, rolled for their buff, got sustained, split fired onto a Skyray and 2 Riptides and just killed all of them. And I'm like, okay, well, that was kind of wild. And then there was I did rapid ingress my fusion suits in because I wanted to try and get play with them, but I rapid ingressed them in my deployment zone where they couldn't get shot. But I had neglected to see that there was a charge that the tank busters could make on. They made I think it was an 11 on the dice, so they were able to go all the way around the transport and then do body blocking and movement jank to tag them, which meant that they couldn't advance over and shoot something that they wanted to. And that's not a unit that can fall back and shoot anyway. Right. So at the end of that turn, I basically lost any ability to make any decisions at that game. All I could do was fall back or just shoot the things I was in combat with. Wasn't really anything I could do. So we ended up calling it there. So I didn't play my turn 2. Because everything was either dead or tagged in combat. So, I could run some Vespid out, but it wasn't going to make much of a
game changing.
Yeah, so I didn't worry about that too much. But if we played it again, maybe I could have played it for a 5, something like that. But Jack Tite, the pilot on that one, is obviously a really good player. It was always going to be an uphill battle, but I think I did. I'm hard to say I did well. That was embarrassing. But yeah, the round ended 19-81, which is a shame considering how much prep and effort we put into. I was hoping to maybe put up a little bit more of a fight than that, but hey, what can you do? It's a national team. It's a team full of national players. International players. There's only so much you can do in that situation. So
yeah.
That's the way it goes.
And they'd gone for quite an interesting skew, hadn't they? They wanted to basically all take big monsters, and Tom pussied out, but everyone else took big monsters. So those sorts of skews can be quite hard to combat. From an Alpharius point of view, we got to play Dead Red Gaming's Super Elite Pro League, which was full of lovely chaps. And we had an absolute ball. I think it would be fair to say we were taking it a bit more seriously this weekend than they were. But we also knew that they were full of good tournament level players, and so nothing would be easy. So we did our due diligence, we prepped, we had a game plan, we rocked up on Saturday morning, and suddenly JP and I were like, well, maybe we shouldn't defend with what we were going to defend with. Maybe we should just change it. I'm like, And to be honest, I kind of blocked it all out, so I can't actually remember how the pairings went. But I do know that at the end of it all, we were pretty happy. So we had their Chaos Knights into our Guard, which we had as a win. We had our Tyranids into their Space Marines, like all Dreadnought spam, which we had as a win. We ended up with the Yanari Mirror. Everyone loves a Yanari Mirror. That's fun, isn't it? Which we had down as a draw. We had their Custodies into our Chaos Knights, which we figured would be drawish, maybe a slight loss. We weren't really sure because none of us knew what a Chaos Knight Matrix looked like. And then we had their Orcs into our Chaos Space Marines, our Bile, which we had down as a win. And over the course of this round, the vibe was pretty positive. At no point was anyone worried. Everyone was pretty comfortable and confident. Apart from poor old Alex. Alex was not having a good time into the triple Warden Brick, double Caladius. And so Alex's first ever Chaos Knight game did end in a 0-20. But don't worry, guys. It does get better. Don't you worry. JP beat the Marine 17-3 hero. Lee beat up some Orcs for an 18-2 win. Harley beat Chaos Knight 17-3. And I managed to win the United Mirror 20-0. So we did end up with a 72-28 victory, which was very good. It got out the dust, got off the dust. I mean, for me, getting to play Yanari Mirror was quite helpful because all the time we were thinking and talking about Yanari things. So actually that kind of fast-tracked my ability to try and learn the army because I'd had 2 practice games. Simon hadn't had none. So therefore, I guess the 2 practice games were a big advantage there. And his was a bit more of an off-meta Yanari list as well. But a very fun game, so thank you, Simon. And from what I could tell, everyone had a lovely time. And what more could you ask for in life? So we got off to a winning start. We were happy boys. And now we go over to round 2. Back over to you, Legion. So you're gutted. You've just lost narrowly. Time to have someone who, you're feeling like, well, this team, at least this team we're playing, they have also lost. And hopefully, we back ourselves in this. Like, hopefully we'll have a nice, easy game too. Like, it will be fine, right? So that's what you had?
So, round 2, like 2 other times this tournament, we got paired up. So we went into a team that drew their first round, and it was this small YouTube channel. You might have heard of them. They're called Vanguard Tactics.
Yeah.
Which was nice. So thankfully we already knew half the guys. So we knew it was going to be a laugh. I really wanted to play Jake because I played him last round 2 years ago at LGT, where he was playing Votan and I was playing Dark Angels. So we could have had literally a rematch. Would have been great. Dave seemed really obsessed with playing Stephen Box.
I'm so surprised. Yeah.
At one point, I came over to their table and they did end up playing. And Stephen was going, "I'm going to bang out a 9-incher," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Don't worry, I've banged out a 10. You can have the extra inch." At that point, I went, "I'm going back to my table. That's the grown-ups table. I don't understand what's going on." It was very, very intense. They seemed to be having fun. This was a round where none of us wanted the Orcs. We tried our best to get Patrick away from it, but somehow...
And how did that go?
It went really wrong.
Yeah.
But he did get to go into the lovely Ben Jones, who he said out of the 2 Orc players, they were both great games, but Ben was an excellent opponent, and he really actually enjoyed it, even though he got 28. And to me, that is something that could be said for someone, right? Like, if someone's 20-0ing you, it can be quite unpleasant sometimes, how it's done. But Patrick came out of that going, "I know what I'd do slightly differently. Don't think it would have helped, but I would," which I thought was nice. Steve went into their Imperial Knights. We didn't really quite know how to gauge that because it was Canis Rex and a bunch of Armigers. Sorry, they're not War Dogs. They've got less cool gun options. But it was very much like we all knew that we could have an all right game. We were trying to give Jamie a slightly better matchup this time so that he couldn't just shit the bed again. And I tried to take Jordan's Blood Angels away because I just had a great game into Blood Angels and it was Angelic Inheritors. So I thought, let's see if I can at least try to blunt their score there because that could chew through one of our armies if we weren't careful. I think that could have blended through Patrick perhaps. Maybe like the Orcs did. but we don't know. So we end up having Stephen going into Dave. Dave got 6 points, so it's a 14-6. I think that's slightly under where we were hoping, but he was pulling off 10-inch charges and all sorts of strange kind of risky manoeuvres, which seemed to pay off. When I went into Jordan, it was really tough because he had a squad of Desolation Marines with an apothecary. They sat up on the top of his ruin, and they just kind of chipped away at my scoring units. We were playing, I think this round was Purge the Foe.
It was indeed, yeah.
And I went first. So it was rough in that respect. And then he also had that unit to be able to kind of just go, right, those scouts, I'm going to try to clear them off. So get him a quick, easy kill. Even if he didn't kill it that turn, like he left one scout, he left one Reaver on his own. It meant that in turns he could pick and choose if he needed the kill, which was really useful. So that gave me some kind of insight. I was like, oh, that could work in my list as well. I kind of scraped it and I tried my best, and I ended up being like, I think I was 4 points behind him, so it ended up being a 10-10. And I'll take that. Going first on Purge felt really tough. I threw everything into him. I didn't quite get through him quick enough, but it's what it is. Then Jamie had a better game into Jake. I think Jake got a little bit diced in this one. It felt a bit sad when I walked over and it was like, I was like, what turn are you on? And they were like, turn 5. And I was like, I was at like turn 2 at the time, and there wasn't much of Jake's stuff left. It was like, it's one of those sorts of games where it had gone a bit wrong.
Right.
But he was still scoring, so it ended up being a 12-8 to Jamie. So I think that helped Jamie's morale as well, because it was like, I think after that first game, it was like, am I not good at this army? Have I done something wrong? And he started questioning kind of the decisions even before really getting any real insight. Because I don't know if he'd had enough practice with it he'd played the list, but not played it enough to perhaps know the ins and outs of how it could match up. So Steve went into the Imperial Knights, and I think Steve's list on paper could have done quite okay into it. Like, had some big shooty stuff. Like, is it Exocrines? He was hoping that they could pick up stuff, but he ended up getting 4 points in that one, which was rough. But Jay, who he went into, is a very competent player, so I'm not too surprised if he got kind of danced around a bit. And then finally, I did touch on it a minute ago. Poor Patrick, went into Ben Jones and got 20-0'd. So
I mean,
that
at
was
no
rough.
point did the Jakari player really see a situation where they would be playing Green Tide
Twice
games in a row. Like, that is brutal. Welcome to Teams, Patrick. Here. We're in the big leagues now.
And the hope was we'd get some better scores. I think, in theory, Steve and Dave thought they'd get a little bit higher, but we ended up being 32-68. So
yeah, which is all right. VT, top team, right?
We gave him a run, but it did feel like we had kind of... I think we all but one of the games we went first. I think in the Green Tide game, he went second, I think it was.
Which is actually
worse. It didn't matter, really. It was just like one of those weird situations where I was like...
You don't want to go second Green Tide.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where I think the mission really didn't help in the comp as well. So it gave us all a bit of an insight that maybe we should have been conscious of that when doing our pairings a bit more. But otherwise, great fun though. It was great playing Jordan. It gave me some good insight into what the Blood Angel stuff can do, because they both of my Blood Angel players had slightly different versions of the list. They weren't just copy paste, which was nice to see. So
yes, good stuff. Oh my god, not the best start. It's time to turn it around. Did you manage that?
So we played against Majority T3. They had Imperial Knights. They had Votan. They had a Hammer of the Emperor Guard. They had Yannari. Yep. And they had Demons, which, if I remember correctly, was... You have to bear with me because I've deleted the Matrix this one by mistake. That one was Shadow Legion, but it didn't have Bellacore or anything like that. Very interesting build. A lot of stuff on the board. So we decided to first defend with Yannari, because then you had one bad matchup. Something I noticed across the weekend is I'm not sure if we were like underestimating our Yannari, or we just got a bad run of teams or whatever, but I was kind of hoping for like more ability to pair around the Yannari to try and get them a good matchup, but it didn't really seem to come up very often. So yeah, we ended up with like first defending with them a lot, which basically just you do to dodge bad matchups rather than you do to try and get a good one. But Yeah, so we ended up with Yannari. They offered us the Yannari Mirror or Votan. That was Rob's only good matchup on the row, so we decided to take that Votan game. They defended with Imperial Knights. We gave them Sisters and Admech. They wanted no part of the Double Breacher Rad Zone list, unsurprisingly. So they took the Sisters. So we had a nice little cheeky blunt there. That doesn't sound the way that I wanted it to. So then we second defended with Tau, and they second defended with their Eldari. And then they gave us Guard and something else, and we gave them EC and something else. Again, we're trying to work off half complete information. But the way that ended up working out was Eldari into Votan on the heavy board, predicting a small win. We got Sisters into the Imperial Knights on the light board, predicting something drawish. We got me into the Hammer of the Emperor Guard, looking at something drawish as well. We've got the Emperor's Children into the Eldar. That was predicted to be a small loss. And then we had the Admech into the Demons, which is predicted to be a small win. So for me, this game kind of didn't go very well at first. So I deployed my sort of Ghost Kill on the far end of the board quite aggressively. And I did the maths on, like, does a Dawn kill a Ghost Kill? The answer is no, it doesn't. Well, it shouldn't. Unfortunately, I forgot two very important things. The first thing was that I'd left it in. I left it 1 inch too. I basically did the maths wrong in my head. I left it in 1 inch too close, which meant that he could take the +1 to hit order rather than the move order, and be hitting me on 4s rather than 5s. So that was the first mistake. The second mistake was I forgot that melter guns, multi-melters will override the +2 damage from the melter, overrides the damage 0 from the Ghost Kill. Forgot about that. Not smart. And then the last thing that I forgot is that you have a +1 AP strat within 12 in this army, which I didn't forget they had. I did forget that he could use it. I just didn't.
Yeah, wow.
I was like, yeah, no, I know about that strat, and I just didn't apply it to my. But yeah, he killed it on the nose, which is a shame. And then it caused me to lose like a lot of tempo on that side of the board, which didn't look very good. So I was kind of predicting things to go very badly for me early on, because things just weren't looking very good for me. But luckily, as things tend to do with Carry On, suddenly you get to turn 3 and the dice turn around for you.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of good turns. The Sun Forges, I'm happy to eat crow on the Sun Forges. I've been saying they've been not very good for a really long time, but they really did perform for me this whole weekend. They came down, they blew up a Dawn, then they overwatched 2 more tanks to death. Something I didn't respect. So they got 9 melter gun shots, right? So what I was doing before was I was running the plasma unit, because they had full rerolls to hit. So they would come in, rapid ingress, and then a lot of time they would overwatch something and do a bunch of damage to it if they tried to charge. And then what I did this time, what I didn't realize is that, so a Sunforge unit, if you get 1 hit on those 9 shots, that obviously becomes 2 as sustained. But it's rolling, it's 5s re-rolling most of the time on most tanks. But against transports, it's 4s re-rolling. And at AP4, you only need to get 1 through, realistically, or 1 or 2 through, and because you're re-rolling damage, you can just kill a full health transport a lot of the time, which I didn't really respect. Like, it doesn't take many hits to get a very large impact out of that unit, which is like something I didn't really realize until I'd seen it in action. And that's really useful, because when guard units fall out of said transport, they don't have an order and they're battle shots, so they can't use the grenade strat. So that's really super useful for them, for obvious reasons. And yeah, I just managed to pull back a lot of score, a lot of secondary at the later points of the game, and then pull that back to a 10-10. Nice. The Eldarian to Votan started looking quite positive. Then things slowly started to drift downhill and ended up but then Rob had the bottom of turn, so we pulled it back to a 10-10. Sisters into IK, we lost 8-12, which we're totally happy with. Again, that was more of a blunting roll. Not many other people wanted that one other than the Abmech, so that was totally fine. Our Emperor's Children, despite predicting a loss, came back with an 11-9. Not quite sure how that one happened. I didn't get the story on that one, but it was interesting to know all the same. And then the Abmech into Demons ended up 18-2 to the Abmech. So, yeah, some of that stuff was just... some of the stuff that Jack was able to do there was just absolutely crazy. Just watching Bloodthirsters bounce off of breaches was just...
Yeah.
Turns out he just passed 4 up invuns.
It's an easy game.
Yeah, that army just kind of... Like, if you bounce with that army, it all falls apart very fast. The Shadow Legion list. So, yeah. That ended the round... 10, 20, 31... Hang on. 57 to us. So just barely a win there.
Just
Snuck it in.
the win.
Squeaked it.
Squeaked the win. So you're off the mark. That's what we like to hear. Very good. And on for that 4-1, which was the goal.
Yeah, the good old submarine.
Cool. For us, we drew a team called Phoenix 40K. We were like, who are they? Not heard of them. And then we checked their previous game, which they had won 99-1. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never heard of a 99-1. So immediately you're like, well, these guys probably do know what they're doing then. It turned out that 99-1 was against a team who basically were at their first ever tournament and were kind of still learning the game. So
Gauntlet of Fire.
Welcome to Tournament 40K, guys. But no, Phoenix 40K, absolutely lovely guys. I know all of us had a really delightful, chilled out game. They're a club in Nottingham. A gaming club in Nottingham. So yeah, it was lovely to play into them. Again, pairings process. Basically, JP and Harley were so desperate to do pairings. I kind of kept out of it until they started fucking up. So the early days, I just let them do it. So we ended up with our Chaos Knights into their Chaos Demons, which we figured was as like a drawish. We had our Guard into their Chaos Knights. Well, Harley just won it, so we assumed he'd win it again. I got World Eaters, which I put down as a win for me because I've got like 4 infiltrating units and lots of 3 damage shots and that sort of thing. We had our Tyranids into their Seer Council. JP had built his list to take on Eldari, so we had that as a win for us. And Lee's CSM into Dark Angels. That was the one matchup he didn't want to play because of like there was quite a lot of fights first and Deathwing Knights with the -1 damage and that sort of thing. So Lee didn't get one he wanted, but we said just keep it close. We'll all do our jobs and we'll be fine. And the general story over this round was that we were all doing our jobs and everything was going to be fine, and that's pretty much how it played out. Alex, in fact, won 16-4 into the Demons, so he's turned around that 0-20 and just gone, boom, I can play Warhammer, eat this.
I find Chaos Knights to be a really interesting teams army because you can play them like super, super safe and get a draw into almost anything. Yep. But then like you have this like weird, like if dice swing, like most of the time, like the downside isn't that bad for the Chaos Knights, but the upside like can just get ridiculous. Like if you just don't die as a knight, like with 1 or 2 knights, you just go bang and just run someone over. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I really liked having Chaos Knights in the composition. Harley did his thing, 17-3 win into Guard. JP also did his thing into Seer Council, won 15-5. Lee lost 9-11, which, considering the matchup and the Matrix, absolutely fine with that. They seem to have like a really interesting game. We'd been like, just play it really cagey, and he was like, but they've just force sent into me. If I don't charge them back, they're just going to charge me. And we're like, well, it's fine. Just do it in a controlled way, Lee. And so he managed that. And I had a really fun game into Joe. This was very much a classic case of Eldar projecting threat. So I did the classic thing of, just so you know, Joe, that Angron you put on your front line, if I go first, my Fire Drag, my Wave Circle can move up to that middle ruin. I can hop out my fire dragons can shoot Angron. And then, he was like, oh, I don't want that. So he then deployed Angron 10 inches further away. And then we got to turn 1, and he went first. And he was like, well, if I move my Angron forward, then exactly the same thing could still happen. I was like, well, it could, yeah. And that's one of Eldari's huge strengths, is they're just so good at like projecting threat and saying, well, if you come out, I am going to get a turn of just trying to annihilate you before you do anything. I had a lot of screens in that game. I actually personally don't think I played particularly well. I certainly gave away 1 or 2 units cheaper than I should have. I mismanaged a couple of things, and Wild Eaters can immediately jump on you. I think Joe just didn't, on his go turn, hit me with everything that he could. He still had like a unit or 2 a bit further, too far behind. If they'd all managed to punch in at the same time, I think Joe could have maybe made up for a couple of my mistakes. As it was, Angron did charge into the Incubi Fight's first brick, and they did 12 wounds to him, which, considering he's unwinning on 6s, is quite unlikely. But the -1 damage saved him. Probably the fun part of this game was that Angron died, and then on turn 4, Joe rolled the Angron to come back and rolled 2 6s. I was like, oh, so close. Oh, I've got a Berserker unit on an objective. I guess I'll just roll the other. I'll re-roll one of these and then rolled it into a 6. And boom, Angron came back, and then just ran straight into my backfield and took out like 3 units. And this actually swung the game slightly. So I won mine 14-6, but actually, if Angron hadn't come back, it would have been like a 15-5 or 16-4. Shout out to Harley in the chat saying I was scared that round I had 13 knights in my face.
That's not what he said on the car on the way back.
Was it? He was like, to be fair, at the time, because his opponent did just go, here's half my army in the middle of the board, deal with it. And then Harley just about kind of got through it. And then he went, and here's the other half of my army. And Harley, for like 2 or 3 turns, just had to just keep rolling dice and hope and pray. And as always, Harley got super lucky. We ended up winning that round 71-29. So another win in the 70s. Feeling pretty good about that. Alpharius march on undefeated. Final round of the day, Legion. You're not having a good time in terms of results and pairings. It's been a bit unfair. So are you treated to something a bit different?
Well, we then went into an opponent who had lost their first round, drew their second round. So technically, we paired up again. So we went into off 5 men in a car park. The logic behind their team.
You did what?
Is
This is, I know we're after 9 o'clock, but come on, man.
They go, if you've won against them, you can say, we beat off 5 men in a car park. These guys were cheeky. So
cheeky monkeys.
They'd had a bit of a rough kind of day like we had. We're all a bit frazzled. They had an interesting composition. They had Custodes, some Chaos Knights, some CSM, Death Guard, and Hammers of the Emperor. That's the guard tanks, right?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. So Dan, that was just in the chat, I played into him. He respected what I could do with my charges a little bit too much. So he had a lot of big tanks. He had, I think it was 2 of the Dawns. He had loads of Kassakin. He kind of stayed back a little bit too much. I then was incredibly lucky with my 4-up invulns, to the point where his dice were not particularly favourable, and then I was making lots of saves, so it was just a little grim at times. It then kind of leveled back out again, but the game kind of swung, and it looked like it could have ended up being kind of more of a 15-5 to me, but it kind of clawed back because I could see that he was starting to get through my stuff, and it ended up being like a 12-8 in the end, which I was happy with. I didn't really know how the matchup was going to go. I was really happy to go into anything apart from the Death Guard, because historically, if I charge into Death Guard, I struggle. If they've got Mortarin, my -1 damage gimmick goes, so it's just like I couldn't go for that. So I felt that was just giving them a good win if we let that happen in the pairings. Patrick then went into the Death Guard because he kind of looked at his matrix and went, it was that, I think, or the Chaos Knights he wanted. And when given the choice, Death Guard came up, and we basically gave them that or Steve's Tyranids, I think, very much to just kind of go, you don't want either of these, we can just deal with you because he can stay back and shoot at you. They took Drakari, and Patrick got a 9-11. So he got the 9, which I think he was really pleased with because it is still quite rough, kind of trying to dance around the Death Guard. But I think he kind of kept it close, which was good. And I think it was that kind of game where he came out of it going, I think I did all right there. And it was really nice to see Patrick kind of coming out of the Orc lamaze of kind of like, I've played 2 horrible
And huge
Horde
credit,
armies.
like I know Jack's a big proponent of that. Jack, you often talk about how like you can see when people are down and not feeling as confident, their matrix really changes, and it can affect how you play your game as well. If you're not feeling confident, you might not be pushing as aggressive when you maybe should be. And I think if you've just got battered twice in a row by something, like to be able to kind of reset and go again and grab a 9, because let's face it, Drukari aren't that great at the moment into various things. I think is full credit to Patrick. So well done there.
And then Jamie went into the CSM, which I've just looked it up because I actually didn't see during like the pairings what it was. It was actually a Fellhammer siege host, and it was kind of a bit of everything. So it looked like an army that I think his custodians could just chew through, and they did quite comfortably. It was a rough one, that matchup. Jamie got a 15 there, which I think really kind of helped him just bounce a little bit more back from that first round. So it was looking good. Steve then went into the Chaos Knights, and he did what he thought he was going to do and got a 14-6 into them because I think he just picked them apart, and I think we gave them the light board. No, I was on the light board, and he had a medium board. This was the thing we kept doing. We kept giving me the light or the heavy board just to prevent them taking it. Yeah. And that was the kind of fun thing. Is I think I had the heavy board, and I was like, I don't care. I'll charge through anything. It doesn't matter. And then Dave went into their custodies. I think he'd learned a lot about what not to do into the Lions when going into this. And he got the 911 there. He got the 9 of the 911 just because I think he figured out what he needed to avoid doing after Box. He kind of gave him those kind of horrible beats. Yeah. So it was good. We ended up scraping the win with a 59-41. And I think that was a nice way to round off the day. We then all we sat and kind of planned that we are going to go sit and have dinner together at our team meal, which was nice. So it was very much we moved around as a pack.
And that's really nice. I think sometimes, especially what I've noticed with 6++ is like you take 3 teams, and although you'll be in your team, maybe you don't get to associate with all the other teams as much. So I think it's really nice that you guys immediately gelled as a team, but also we were obviously all together at the same time.
Yeah. We tried to actively do it because I've had it before where you go to a team's thing and you just, as soon as you get to the team, like the wider team's meal, you all split off and then you're not really a team.
It helps bonding. And I think what I would say in my experience is that although you might not realize it, actually being really close as a team and working together genuinely does have a big payoff on the tabletop. Jack talks about understanding the players and the pairings and that sort of thing. And it genuinely does help. It is not just numbers on a page. It's understanding what people mean when they say certain things, and knowing how to motivate them, to talk to them, to try and get the best out of them. Some people need a kick up the backside. Some people need the positive affirmation. There's a huge element of this, and actually, when I played in teams and we've got it right, it's very much been like we've worked together, and it's just helped us on the tabletop that little bit extra. It genuinely does help. So I think that's really nice, and you'd also got your first win, so you were off the mark, right?
Finally.
Oh my god. The dream of the submarining 4-1 has been realised. Round 2. Can you carry on in round 3?
So we went into the Wooden Spoon Chasers. It was Legion's round 1 opponent. So they, as we've gone over already, they had the Orcs, the World Eaters, the Custodies, the Blood Angels, and the Sisters of Battle. So I looked at this one in terms of the old Matrix. The AdMech were having kind of a rough time of it. There wasn't much that they wanted and what they didn't want. Sisters was very flat. Connor's Emperor's Children looked very good there. Had a lot of stuff that he wanted. And the Yanari had a couple of matchups they didn't want, and as did my Tau, but we had a couple of price spots in there. So we ended up defending with the Yanari again. first defending, and mainly because I looked at it and I thought, I'm confident in Rob to pull draws out of some of these bad matchups.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like I was too worried, even though he had 2 like losses in there, and only 1 win and some draws. I was like, I'm not too worried about defending with him, mainly because a bunch of other stuff didn't want to defend. So I was like, okay, well let's do that. And they offered us Orcs and World Eaters. They just defended with Custodes. We offered them Emperor's Children and Admech, because Admech was the only good matchup for the Admech, and it was actually one of the draws for Emperor's Children. He had 2 draws, 3 wins, and he ended up taking the Emperor's Children. So that was a blow to us. But the alternative was like much worse. It was basically giving the sisters one a loss, or myself a loss. Like going into monophase armies with Tau just isn't a very good idea, because it was a triple Warden Brick army. Then we second defended with sisters based on what we had left. Sorry, we second defended with Tau based on what we had left, and because the light table was still available. And then some various things happened. Can't read any of this. Okay, so we ended up with with Tau into the World Eaters, which we had as a small win. The Sisters into the Blood Angels we had as a draw. Yennari into Orcs we had as a small loss. And we had Emperor's Children into Custodes, as I said, as a draw. And Admech into Sisters on the light board, which was their choice, as a small loss. This was a fun bit where this is like me. This is like my greatest joy that I get out of pairings process, is when I set a trap on the board pairings, and I sit there and I say, and their opponents look at it and he says, okay, do you want to take the light board? It's like, no, I don't want to take the light board against Admech. They'll breach us. Yeah, but if you don't, then our teammate has to play against the Tau on the light board. I don't like either of these choices, and that just gives me joy that I can't really explain. But yeah, so
man.
I know. So the Sisters came back with a 10-10. The Emperor's Children came back with the 10-10. The Admech into Sisters came back with a 10-10.
Okay,
which is actually, he had it down as a loss, so for him to pull it up to a 10-10 was really good. The Yennari into the Orcs, again, predicted as a small loss. We did actually predict 1 small win, 2 small losses, and 2 draws here, so we did actually lose on pairings.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
It's unusual.
Yeah, I mean, I tend not to come out of that one like that, so that was pretty rough. But Rob did pull that up to an 11-9, as I never lost faith in him for even a second. And then my game won to the World Eaters, ended up as a 14-6. I played that matchup, I think, like 12 times now, and every single time I played it, I've played it on corners, so I know that matchup on UKTC like the back of my hand. I don't know what it is. I just always seem to draw into that. And I think the World Eaters list pretty much hasn't changed for like 5 ITTs. So
when I ran into Joe round 2, Joe was like, "Do you know World Eaters?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "It's the same list as all the time." I was like, "Okay, cool. You don't need to tell me anymore." Like,
yeah. I think the only difference here is that they've got the 1 unit of the kill team dudes that can infiltrate.
Yeah, Goremongers. Nice.
Which does change things, because you can stop a lot of what my army wants to do.
Yeah, of course.
On the first turn by blocking up infiltrators. However, by my opponent's admission, he wasn't very used to using them, and he didn't know how he should use them, and he ended up infiltrating them on sort of like the far side of the board, which let me put my my Pathfinders, save them to the last drop, and basically put them directly in front of his sort of big L on the UKTC. Yeah. I did get first turn. I was able to get loads of I was able to get my Riptides and my Sky Rays up on the far left flank, and you can, on that map on UKTC, you can just see down the whole like diagonal middle of the board. So you get like a really strong control of the fire lanes, and then the Pathfinders were just wrapped around his sort of like L, so none of his berserkers could get out. They were all just stuck there.
Yeah.
So it was a really strong board position for me on turn 1, and then when his turn 1, he tried to. This is basically the sort of start and end of the game. Pretty much was that he tried to pull out Invocatus. He attacked the Pathfinders, which the problem is he didn't kill enough of them. He only killed I think it was 5 of them. So when I piled in to attack, I was able to pile in onto the objective in the middle of the board, and then I was able to get a 15 turn 1. Turn 2, sorry. His turn 2, he runs. So it's like, okay, I'm stuck here. I need to do something. So he runs out Angron, to which I bring in the fusion suits.
And do 127 damage to him.
No, they didn't actually. They actually spooned it a little bit. They did 6.
Oh.
But the Sky Rays had the Sunforgers went low, but the Sky Rays went high.
Okay.
And they were scanning the skies. They saw him up there and did 15 damage to him or something, and shot him down with their anti-aircraft firepower. And luckily for me, he didn't come back for the rest of the game. And then the problem is at that stage, I then had such good board control. He wasn't able to pull back the score. He did have end of game scoring, so he was able to pull back a point or two there. So it ended the 14-6, and then that left us with a 55-point win. So we kept it close again.
Nice. You did
minimum effort, maximum results.
Efficient win. That's what we like.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. So you finished the day 2-1, and how are you feeling as a team at the end of day 1?
Yeah, pretty solid. The fact that we were. I mean, things were a little bit stressful because we felt things were a bit rough against England, and then we came down and it was 2 very close wins. So it was looking pretty shaky for most of the round, but we barely managed to pull it back. So pretty stressful, but that's that was all right. But I did notice a few things in our pairings that we can talk about in a little bit that sort of propelled what I did for the next day. So that's cool.
Nice. For us, we drew into the Warhamsters. Now, we have played Warhammer before, and we know them reasonably well. I think we beat them last time, but it was a very close game. Or it might have even been a draw, to be honest. I actually can't remember. But yeah, good team. They're low-key good, I would say. No one really talks about Warhamsters per se, in a team setting, but low-key, very good team with some really great players. And it was, I would say this one felt like pairings didn't quite go right, but I don't know how to explain it because, again, I had nothing to do with it. All I know is no one felt particularly happy at the end of pairings. There wasn't that same buzz we'd had from the first 2 games of, right, okay, we've got lots of winning matchups here. It was a bit like, actually, they had a composition that was actually really hard to deal with. So we had me into Necrons. Now, Eldar into Necrons is traditionally bad for Eldar. But I was just looking at it. He was Annihilation Legion. And I'm like, surely I'm fine. Surely I am fine in this game. Okay, fine, whatever, I'll do that. Lee got the short straw of playing into the Chaos Demon Horde. It was 18 Blood Crushers and a billion other models. So Lee, no one wanted to play that. Lee got the short straw there.
So many pink horrors.
You should have seen the 2 tables. There's mine where we've got all the Necrons hidden, all the Eldari hidden, just an entire middle of the board empty, all very fine-tuned, very finesse. And then on my left-hand side is just approximately 250 models or whatever, just across everywhere, throughout the round. How's this game going? No idea. Absolutely no idea. And then to my right is JP on his Tyranids, which is also an absolute mess. But he is playing into Sam Dunn, we all love Sam, his Custodian. And JP reckons it's drawish there. We've got Alex on his Chaos Knights into Blood Angels, which he feels is drawish, maybe a slight loss. And Harley is into Admech, which he doesn't want. And when Harley gets something he doesn't want, he gets stroppy. So we
Such a
had two.
child.
We had 2 turns of Harley being stroppy. I didn't want this matchup. So the story of this round was that at no point did any of us really feel happy, I would say. I had quite a fun situation where I was chatting to my opponent, James, another James, who again, absolute delight. James, great game. Loved it. One of my favourite games from a technical standpoint. Because I'm like, well, have you played against Yunari before? And he was like, yeah, I played them round 1. I was like, oh, okay, how'd you do? Yeah, I won that game. I'm like, oh, damn, okay. And then and I was like, he was like, yeah, and then we've just played Toys of Mass Destruction. I'm like, oh, wow, they're a good team. He was like, yeah, I was sweating away in my game, but turned out we smashed that round and we beat them really easily. And I was like, oh. Well, who were you playing in Toys of Mass Destruction? James Marsden. I beat him. I'm like, oh shit. Because James Marsden's obviously an exceptional player, won multiple times. I'm like, well, maybe I've screwed the pooch here. And we had a really great technical game there. I really, really like that one. The general message from Lee over the course of this game was that he can't get through the demons quickly enough, so that's not looking great. Alex is still feeling like it's a small loss. Tyranids is still feeling drawish, and Harley's still sulking a bit because his turn 2's not gone particularly. That I think he didn't make the mental switch in how to play around lethal intent. So, for example, the general pattern of the game was I would let him shoot something to death, and then I would send out my incubi brick to the middle of the board to threaten to score a 10 or 15, and he would then try and take a bunch of like 10 or 11-inch charges with his things to try and get over to me, and he just kept failing them, thankfully. Because if he pulled off 2 or 3 at the same time, he might be able to split all my fight's first attacks enough to get in there. But, he was shooting stuff that he didn't actually need to shoot. So, like 5-watt spiders on the home field. And, he can just charge them and tag them and whatever. But instead, he kind of shot it to death with the DDA and gave him the lethal intent. That would be my only feedback for James. But other than that, he was, like, really technically good, very strong player. And, just an absolute delight, though, as well. Like, really sporting. So I really like that game. Anyway, the round didn't quite go as well as we would like, I would say. Lee, unfortunately, lost 5-15. So that immediately puts us on the back foot. Alex lost 8-12, which, again, was kind of what we had been saying. So we're still not doing well. JP's only got a 10-10, which I say only, Custodian, it was drawish anyway. Harley has, despite all the whining, managed to get an 11-9 win. So well done, Harley. And I know he was playing Emperor chat, who I played last time we played Warhammer. So Luke, I know you were a lovely opponent. Sorry about Harley. And I managed.
Apologise.
I managed to grab a 13-7 win. Could have been a 14-6 win if 4 scatterbites had been able to kill 5 flayed ones. So that was sad times. But we actually end up with a losing draw here. 53 to Warhamsters, 47 to us. So a bit gutting. We felt like, I don't know, I feel like we should have done better than that, but it's hard to pinpoint why. My Yunari, I probably got the best matchup for myself, and I was only able to get a 13. The demons could have run over any of us. Custodies can do custody things. The Admech, no one wants to play into Admech, really, do they? So I think they just had a really good team comp, and they played really well.
Yeah, sometimes you just get those weird skew armies, and I'm not sorry, they're playing unusual stuff, right? So, and it's an interesting mix, so it's very easy for your matrix to look really rough into that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We finished today undefeated. We still got a chance of making the final, or going undefeated across the event. We're not too disillusioned. It's not the end of the world. And we'll have to see what we get the next day, I guess. At this point, I just want to have a little bit more self-promotion. So I'd like to remind everyone about our hashtag Make It Happen, which is currently happening. What the plan is everyone does as much hobby as they can over the month of May. And we've got a special section in our Discord, and it has been amazing. Like, we've had people's children getting up extra early before school. You're welcome to do their Make It Happen for the day. We had Steve building models in his car at lunchtime on the Saturday. Tom Redgate painting Saturday evening. I've been like 5 minutes. Let's just try and get some brown done on some like jump pack intercessors. We've got like over 20 people tracking it on the on the spreadsheet we've got. So yeah, I think it's been really fun. That you can see people are just like really actively trying to hobby like most days or every day. So yeah, we've got that going. And I guess I should mention our tournament, because how's that going, Scrivo?
Well, the website says there's one left, but I think there's 3 left because we got a couple of duplicate transactions I need to chase. But
Okay.
basically sold out.
Basically sold out in one evening. I mean, that's not a bad effort, is it? We'll pat ourselves on the back there. And obviously, with all the money, it means we can start working out how to spend all of it as quickly as possible. So very exciting news.
That yacht, as Tom often says.
All about that yacht life. Right. We went out for a lovely meal at the botanical. Is it botanist?
Botanist.
Yeah. It didn't destroy all of our insides. Some of us were able to sleep and not spend the entire time in the bathroom. I wasn't one of those people.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
No,
I slept like a baby.
Yeah, well, lucky you. But yeah, I was. Yeah, it was an interesting experience for me. But anyway, some of us got nice relaxing sleep, and we got to attack the Sunday. So, Legion.
So, we then went into one of Dead Red Gaming's multiple teams. I think they had like 4.
Sounds about
Lovely
right.
guys. This was 0 to 20 in 60 seconds was the name of their team. So I think these guys were not their top team, but at the same time some really cool guys that I'd played a couple of them before. They had a really interesting composition. That they had the Custodes brick of Wardens and Lions. They had Chaos Demons. I think that was Shadow Legion. They had the Eldari. They had Necrons, but they had a Tesseract Vault in their Necrons, which in itself, I'm surprised could fit on the table. That thing is unwieldy and silly, and it either does so much or does nothing. It's very fascinating. Then there was a Dark Angels list as well.
You can have it like hanging off the table on UKTC, can't you?
Yeah,
So
it's super dumb. But it actually struggles to get round some of the ruins still because of the way that it kind of encroaches over ruins, which is quite fascinating. So, but yeah, this was kind of one where we looked at it and went, none of us really wanted the Necrons, but Patrick did, because he was like, he had Haywire. He thought, if I'm going to give that, because it was quite vehicle heavy, he was like, I've got the tools for it. Let's see what I can do. He wasn't hopeful to get a win, but he was still kind of keen to like give it a shout. Dave was going into the Eldari. I think this was Ynnari. Let me just double check. I think it was Ynnari. Yes, it was Ynnari. And we really didn't know who would be best for that. Like, I had some good play into it, because I know that if I just charge it and run it down, it can't do its thing. But Dave was like, oh, I'll give it a go, because we're trying to, like, blunt some of the worst things. Like, the Custodes, I took, because I didn't really want it, but 15 Warden bricks going into 3 of our other lists was not pleasant. So I was like, right, I'll take it. Let's see what I can do with that. And then Jamie went into their Dark Angels, which I think if Jamie or I took the Dark Angels, it was going to be a good game as well, because it was a Gladius list. It was good, but it didn't have the tools to deal with being punched by super aggressive melee. So Jamie went into that, got a 14-6. Steve went into the Chaos Demons and did what Steve had been itching to do all weekend and got an 11-9, which was really cool for him. It was nice to see him kind of... He finished it quite quickly from memory. Dave went into the Ynnari, didn't quite get what he wanted. I think it was really tough for him because a lot of his actual output still is shooting. It's that chip damage, right, from Grey Knights. I don't know if he was shooting when he shouldn't have, but ended up being a 14-6. So, and then Patrick got a 6. So I think he was still quite happy with that, because there was a few things like with the Tesseract Vault, he was a bit too respectful of it. And I think when he was chatting to his opponent afterwards, they were kind of like saying if he'd been a little bit more disrespectful to it, it wouldn't have been as much of a problem. So,
Right.
and then I went into George with his Custodes, and turn 1, I went, right, this is a horrible mission. I don't like this. I think we were on a heavy board, and I was like, right, if you get onto the objectives, you've got more OC than me. So I just went turn 1. He went first from memory. I then went, right, I'm just going to full send, because he'd kind of gone into his little ruins right in front of the objective. Yeah, and he could tow one person onto the middle. So I did the smart thing and just went, right, I'm just sending 3 units all into that one brick in the middle and see what happens. And I choked him down. It looked like it was going to start swinging my way, because again, my dice swung quite high on like saves, but I wasn't killing him. I was just pitting him up. So my kind of scoring stuff was bouncing around, scoring stuff. His stuff was scoring stuff, and it ended up kind of swinging in the last turn where my save started to fizzle out, and it ended up being an 11-9 to George. But it was one of those games where, honestly, could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Could have been a 10-10. There was at times we were both kind of saying, I think this is a 12-8 to me. It was one of those games where just like, it didn't matter what was going on. You couldn't kind of plan it, because it just seemed to be like the dice would just swing it again. And it was fun to watch, but at the same time, I couldn't deal with the stress.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, it ended up being a draw. It was 54-46 to them. So they got the kind of the win out of the draw, if that makes sense.
So they're like, oh, we were 1 point away from
So
a win,
close,
and you're
but it
like,
was-
yes, we got the draw.
Yeah. So it was good. It felt like just a few things could have gone differently, and we would have pushed it ourselves, but didn't feel 100 miles away. But yeah, by that point we were all like, cool, that's fun. Let's go get some lunch, because we were all at that point absolutely knackered, because those games were great, but they were very much, everyone was scrapping. It felt like we were playing against people that were on the level that we were on, like just wanted a good time, but also we're not going to give it an easy
Which
time.
is the goal you want on the Sunday, right? That's the idea behind the whole pairings process, is you're now playing people who are hopefully on the same level.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, Omegon.
Yeah, so we played against the South London Legion, which are a very good team as well. I decided to switch. They got Death Guard. They've got their list was kind of odd. I think this was, if I remember right. No, sorry, wrong army. So they had Death Guard, Yanari. They had Gladiator Space Marines with Calgar and Gulliman. They had Custodes and they had Demons. I decided to switch up the pairing strategy for this one. I basically kind of put the Yanari to the side, because they were their predictions were looking worse than I hoped they were going to be going into the event. But Rob was still pulling back draws on predicted losses, so I was like, I'm pretty sure he's just happy to sit there and I can not worry about him. So I kind of stopped prioritizing him for pairings, and I instead decided to first defend with myself, the Tau, to try and get board choice and try and protect the Emperor's Children. The other thing I was trying to do as well was hold back the Admech and the Emperor's Children for the purpose of pinning Eldari, because that Rad Zone Admech list is just like, it wants to play Eldari so badly, and the Emperor's Children can rush it down pretty good as well. We ended up getting. They offered us the Eldari and the Gladiator Space Marines. I'm not playing Eldari with Tal. It's basically an auto loss against anyone competent. Like, as soon as the Eldari player knows even slightly what they're doing in that matchup, there's pretty much no coming back. So I took the Gladiator Space Marines. I played that matchup a couple of times before, pretty much the exact same build. So I was happy to take that. They first defended with Death Guard. We offered them Yanari and Sisters. They took the Sisters. Our second defender in this case was Yanari, because we were keeping back the Admech and EC to pin their Eldari, which they did not want any part of the Admech, so they ended up taking the Emperor's Children. So this put the Tau into Marines on the light table, predicting a drawish matchup. It probably goes up a little bit with the light board. Sisters into the Death Guard on the heavy board,
predicted a small loss. Yunari into the Demons on the standard board, predicting a small loss as well. Admech into Custodes, predicting a small win. And Emperor Children and Theodari, predicting a small win. For context, drawish is like anything from up to like 12-8, and then a small win is like anything up to 15-5, right? Probably should have gone over that earlier, but hey ho. So it turns out after this many episodes, I don't know how to do this. So in terms of my game, this one was kind of interesting in the sense that I kind of was able to play the same kind of way that I did in the last game, where I was able to push up on the left-hand flank, get some really good firing arcs down the line across from corner to corner on the board. Because it's the light board, there's pretty much nowhere to hide on the objective. You can't hide on the objective on the far side of the wall. You have to be on the inside of the ruin and be able to be shot. And Riptides just look down that line at 5-man space for his body with 72-inch range and pick them up for fun. Yeah,
Spotting them.
Exactly. So there's only one small space. There's one tiny space where you can fit 5 Marines. But if you do that, you can't screen against a unit coming in from reserve 9 inches away from you on the side of the board, which is what ended up happening with Breaches, killing them. But that game was quite interesting in the sense that his turn 1, he decided that he needed to be aggressive. So he ended up throwing for the company heroes with Calgar and Guilliman, advancing and charging them both straight forward into a transport that was behind my big L, with Guilliman sat on the middle. The problem with that is that they are still Marine bodies, even with -1 to wound. So between multiple Riptides, multiple Sky Rays, the Breacher unit that got out of the transport, between all of that together, they were able to pick up Calgar's unit. And we were able to do a lot of damage to Guilliman. We got down to 1 wound in the middle. Mistake I made, I forgot that Guilliman loses lone op once the unit that's within 3 inches of him dies, in this case being company heroes. So I could have shot him with more stuff, but I just didn't because I assumed he was lone op, which is a real shame because that probably cost me like 1 or 2 differential points across the entire game, just from him staying alive, because you got to kill him the first time. I mean, it's Tau, right? So you're a single phase army. You got to just bite the bullet, kill him the first time, let him do what he wants, and then kill him on the next turn. So yeah, it's a shame I didn't quite get him that turn. And then I was able to just basically, from that point, I had pretty solid control of the game, and it was looking very good for me. I made a really big mistake, and I had no idea why I did this. I've never done this before. So I pulled recover assets, and I looked at it and I said, Guilliman's still alive. I don't have a safe way to do recover assets here. Guess I got no choice, and I just did it anyway, because I seem to have forgotten that you can just discard cards at the end of your turn. Don't know why I didn't do that.
Okay.
So obviously he went forward and he charged the unit that was doing the recover assets and stopped it. I don't know why Again, a just total brain fart moment. So I lost myself some secondary points there. Again, that's probably another differential point. And then unfortunately, we weren't able to finish the game. I did pretty much table the Marines at that stage. I think if we finished it out, I probably would have scored a bunch more primary and secondaries. I can't imagine him scoring a whole terribly large amount. But it ended up finishing 11-9 to me. I probably could have got more out of that if I didn't make a few misplays and we finished the game, but c'est la vie. The Sisters brought back an 11-9 despite predicting a much larger loss than that, so that's pretty good. As in a 11-9 loss. The Yunari pulled a 12-8 win out of, again, what was predicted a loss. So again, I feel vindicated in my decision to leave Rob to his devices. The Emperor's Children pull a 14-6 out of the Eldari, which is exactly what he said he was going to get, so that's totally happy. And unfortunately, where it all kind of fell apart for us was for the Admech into Custodes, which we had predicted as a win, but it came back as an 18-2 loss. So from my understanding, the way that game went is they both hide for 4 turns, and the Admech just got abysmal cards. I think he got 11 points on secondaries across the game.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then
last turn, the Custodians made a massive push and got a bunch of primary with end of game scoring, and just really punished the Custodians towards the end. And yeah, he just he lost 18-2. So that's a shame. We ended up losing that round, 38-62, I guess it would be. I think on another day we could have pulled that one back. It felt like a very winnable round for us as a team. But the stars didn't align on that day. And but yeah, it was a really good round into South London Legion.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I keep getting their name wrong. Like, I remember the team, but I just keep saying it wrong. And yeah, it was a great round, but unfortunately, this time around, we didn't get the better of them. But great games all the way around. So.
Yeah. So Alpharius got drawn into some friends, Grim Dark Garage. Now they're a team based near us, actually, or some of us up in St Ives in Cambridgeshire type area. Grim Dark Garage and ourselves play regularly at the Saffron team events. We know them, or many of them, very well. And I think they recently got the better of some of the Alpharius teams we've sent over to Saffron Slam. I think Grim Dark Garage won one of the recent events there. So we were obviously looking for some revenge. Now, looking down this matrix, we felt that there were kind of two players that we had to especially try and manage. Number one was Alex Gins, or Gins, I'm not sure which one it is actually, who generally has quite an absurd competitive record, to be frank. He just seems to win every game he plays in an event all of the time, especially by huge margins. I mean, he's like, yeah, it's just ridiculous. I think he's lost something like one competitive game in like the last 2 or 3 years. It's just like that sort of level. So got to try and manage him. Michael Boyle's on Emperor's Children. So Alex was on Votan. Michael Boyle's on Emperor's Children. And Michael's obviously a very good player. And none of us really know the Emperor's Children matchup. I know in theory that Ynnari Emperor's Children is drawish. But I also know that it can certainly swing down for Ynnari if it's misplayed.
I think that one is the Emperor's Children's game to I think they control the tempo of that game, and I think they get to choose if it's if they want to make it a coin flip or they want to play it safe more so than the Ynnari.
Yeah, the basic plan for Emperor's Children is they want to run through you quickly, and Ynnari have got to try and make it a 5-turn game. And if the Ynnari can make it a 5-turn game, then they're kind of within it. But yeah, Emperor's Children obviously punish any mistake really badly. They've got Ynnari, and they've got CSM, and they've got Chaos Demons. So here we're like, well, if we can manage Alex, if we can manage Michael or the Emperor's Children Michael, then we feel like we're in a good place here. And so that was kind of our pairing plan. Harley was absolutely desperate to play into Alex. Absolutely desperate. And we managed it. I would say this, if in the last round we didn't come out of it feeling confident after pairings, in this round we came out feeling incredibly confident after pairings. We had JP's Tyranids into their Ynnari. JP's loving life. He can't wait to run at some Ynnari. Harley's managed to get Alex, so he's very excited to play his guard into Votan. That's a winning matchup for him. I've got CSM, and I'm like, this is a shooty CSM list, so I'm feeling very excited to play this. Chaos Knights into Chaos Demons. We don't particularly know how that will go, but we just keep it a draw. And then we've got a very interesting situation where we've got a Chaos off. We've got Creations of Bile versus Emperor's Children, where Lee is feeling quite confident into Emperor's Children, and Michael's feeling incredibly confident into Bile. So, but Michael apparently told his team he was going to score 18 points into Lee. So that one's like, well, one of them's wrong. Let's find out. But over the course of this round, it was very clear that there was probably only ever going to be one winner. Every single game went according to plan. JP was just filling the board with Tyranids and beat Inari 17-3. Alex played a lovely little 10-10 draw into the Demons and Big Monster Mash and just mitigated that. Harley got his 11-9 win into Alex, which he certainly liked to tell everyone about, and I'm sure we will carry on hearing till the end of days, but it sounds like Harley played a very good game, so well done, Harley, on winning a game that you were supposed to win anyway.
Well done, Harley.
It turns out that Lee was the correct one, because Lee won 17-3 into the Emperor's Children. Just move blocked him.
To be fair, that means Michael was nearly on his 18-2 prediction.
He was very close, just slightly the wrong way around.
Yeah.
And shout out to Michael, who beat Stephen Box the day before. So well done, Michael.
Powerful.
Couldn't beat the mighty Lee Churchwood. And then I felt very sorry for my opponent. James, absolute hero, playing into a horrible matchup. He drew utterly shocking secondaries, and his dice were also awful. And it was a bit of a bloodbath. And I think the whole game was summarised in turn 4, where my Autarch ran up next to a Chaos Vindicator, threw a grenade, rolled 6 4-ups, so did 6 mortal wounds, and then proceeded to hit with his fusion gun and wound with his fusion gun and kill the Vindicator. So just the little Autarch annihilated the Chaos Vindicator. So that one did finish 20-0, but huge shout out to James for being a delightful opponent. Thank you very much. And Grim Dark Garage, as always, all of them were genuinely lovely to play. It was just nice to absolutely kick their teeth in, and we won that one 75-25. So we were now on 3 wins and a draw, and hunting down that elusive undefeated but 4 wins and a draw situation that could put us into the final. But who would we get? Well, we'll have to hold fire, because next up it's Legion. It's your final round. Who have you got?
So the odds were that we were going to at least play one of the Crow teams over the weekend. We finally did that. So we went into Aaron's team, the Crow Force. This was one that I went into it going, I'm not too sure. I know one of the guys, and he beat me. I think it was a 12-8 the last time we played. That was Mark. I think he was playing Admech then, and it was horrible. So I knew to avoid that one. They had Jack Sayer with Demonic Incursion, where it was Rotigus, Great Unclean One, Be'lakor, and a Bloodthirster and Scarbrand. It was a big Monster Mash thing. I wasn't a fan, but at the same time, I've had fun into Shadow Legion. I was like, how different can this be? The difference is, when I've played it, there wasn't any Nurgle. So, and then we had Aaron with his Custodes, which was apparently a shoebox army, and we ended up pairing that into Patrick. Patrick, I think, didn't have a matchup he desperately wanted. I think the Demons he could have been all right with, but we were kind of just trying to gauge who actually wanted to go into any of it. Because like they had the Sisters, Black Templars, and Mechanicus that were a lot just bodies everywhere. So Steve's list was kind of more designed to deal with vehicles and monsters as well. None of the pairings quite worked in this one. We did threaten to randomise them and just shuffle them. Aaron was well up for it. I think we basically did that in a roundabout fashion, because we supposedly did it, but it didn't quite work out. So Dave went into the Sisters and got 8, which was okay. I think that's not far off where he was predicting. I think he was predicting it was going to be about 10, because Dave's Matrix was just 10-10s across the board for every single matchup, it felt like. Steve got 5 into Black Templars. Despite it being quite infantry heavy, Steve really struggled to kind of chew through it quick enough, I think, whilst still trying to score, which is a shame, but it's what you get. Aaron was quite lucky with his Custodes. Being able to roll those 4-ups, really, it becomes kind of a thing, right? And Patrick ended up with 5 points. I got an 11-9, where realistically Jack deserved a 12-8, But bottom of 5, we're playing Scorched Earth. I've got 3 units that have charged behind him because he's left a little gap for me to do some 9-inch deep strikes. They were going into his Plague Bearers. There was a scout blocking him getting onto his objective, and he was like, right, I'll put this Great Unclean one 6 inches away because I'm in my shadow. 6-inch charge. This will be fine. Rolls a double 1. Then goes, fine, got the CP. I'll re-roll that. Double 1. He looked heartbroken because, like, what's the odds, right? And that then meant that, because I was going second, bottom of 5, I burnt his home objective, scored all my stuff, ignored the big fat dude, and kind of flipped it to an 11-9. That should have been his 12-8. It was heartbreaking. We had a lot of really funny dice like that, where there was one time where he just rolled every single save on his Great Unclean one. It was Roticus he put in the back, yeah, because the Great Unclean one, turn 1, he dropped it down on one of the side flanks, and I just went full send, 1,500 points of my army into one Great Unclean one. Didn't kill him.
No.
But pinned him there. That was the goal. I was like, if you're there, you're not everywhere else. And I think I panicked him a little bit. But it was fine. And then Jamie East went into the Mechanicus, and none of us wanted the Mechanicus, because you know what it's like. It's just bodies everywhere, horrible stuff.
No, what's the mechanic?
He managed to get 8 points, though. And I think he was quite pleased with that. But it then meant that, as a result, we lost 37 to 63. But it was a great end to the day. Like, literally, after we'd done the pairings, we were all like, 10-10, call it a draw. Like, everyone just was wanting to just play a game and didn't care about the result. Like,
Yeah.
And that was cool. And, like, after the games were all tied up, everyone was coming up to each other's tables, checking how each other was getting on. And it was both ways. It wasn't just my team talking to the rest of us. We were all interacting as 2 teams. It was really nice. It felt like 10 friends playing Warhammer, which I know it sounds a bit sucky, but it genuinely did just feel like people just having a laugh and not round 5 of a super major. It was cool.
And
Generally felt quite chill.
if you think back to your beginning goal,
Yeah.
it sounds like this round kind of epitomizes that, right?
Yeah, completely that. And like, we had opponents from earlier rounds coming up, seeing how we were getting on at the end of the round. And it was really cool because it just felt like we'd all made 5 new friends, which was really quite neat. Like, I don't think I had a game where I looked at it and went, don't want to play that guy again.
Yeah.
Which was cool. But it was only when I got home I actually saw what position we came for the event. That just shows how little I cared about the end result. Like, to me, the end result wasn't a number on a kind of a scoreboard.
Yeah.
We had some great games, and I had a great weekend with 4 other guys, and that's cool, right?
So you hit your target, basically.
Yeah.
Which is by far the most important thing.
The most disappointing thing is we didn't get best sports on our team.
Yeah.
I was hoping one of us did, because that would have been like the
Icing on the cake.
icing on the cake, right?
Best sports has then got 5 votes, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
No shame lose.
convincing
No shame lose.
people to vote for them 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have won it at an ITT, and I'm still not. I don't believe that I got 5 votes. I think I must have got like 2 or 3, and no one else remembered to vote.
It's quite a common vibe. But no, I think it's so important to set expectations before an event, realistic ones, and they don't have to be, and they certainly shouldn't be, a win amount. Like if you go to an event and you only enjoy the event if you hit the target of how many wins you're going to get, then actually that's a recipe for disaster. You've got to set yourself other achievable goals, and it sounds like you had a very clear plan of what you wanted to get out of it, and you've managed that. So that sounds like a great event for you guys.
Yeah. Because me personally, my best ITT result was last winter's one, with Orcs going 4-1. I don't think I had any better experience getting that than I did this weekend.
Yeah.
In a weird sort of way. Like, that's a different kind of reward, but at the same time, did I enjoy it more for it? Probably not, realistically. I probably felt a little bit more stressed out by it, which maybe not such a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, cracking effort, guys. And it sounds like you guys kind of want to play together again as well, which is great.
Legion.
Cool. Omegon. So you're probably a bit disappointed after the last round, hoping to have had a better one. So go beat some chumps, I guess, in round 5. Who did you know?
That we did not, because our round 5. Well, oh no, I haven't got their name, the team name. Have you got it in front of you?
My phone literally just died. So let me
Hang
just.
So you played Tuesday nights.
That was it, right?
Because that's what tonight is.
We played the Tuesday nights. So, and I played someone. His name's Cameron.
He was absolutely awesome. He got my best sports vote, and a couple of the players on their team I've seen the channel, so they may be around. I don't know if they're around tonight or any other times, but super awesome to see them. And they had like a very similar kind of mindset to us in terms of like the way they wanted to do their pairings and stuff. I think they've only started doing team events this year, but they're like really up for it, so that's super awesome. They had Creations of Bile, and a really interesting Death Guard list with 18 Death Shroud, like 5 regular Terminators, and then I think a Night Tyrant. I think they had.
Okay.
As Votan, they had a Gladius Space Marine list, which is essentially the same list as the one I played last round, and they had some Yunari as well. Slightly different build. In terms of our pairing matrix, it looked really good this round. It's probably our best matrix overall. Both myself and the Yunari having no bad matchups there. Rob even saying, Rob even saying that he would basically 20 the Yunari if he played it, which I was like, okay, fair enough. So I decided to continue my strategy of first defending with the tower to get the board choice, because this is another map where the light board is just absolutely brutal if you are playing against a heavy shooting army. And they'd first defended with their Death Guard. I decided to keep... what I wanted to do here was I wanted to keep the AdMech and EC in reserve and use that to pin the Eldari again. The problem with that is that because they defended with Death Guard, that was one of the draw matchups for Yunari, and I was like, I really don't want to give up all these 4s and 5s, like all these small wins, big wins on the Matrix by putting them into a 3. So I ended up putting down the Sisters in the AdMech, and they did unfortunately choose the AdMech there, which is unfortunate, but the way things go. They offered Eldari and Space Marines again. I'm not playing Eldari. I'll take the Space Marines. I know, again, I've just played that matchup once. I know exactly how it goes, so I should be able to be fine on this, particularly on the light board. Our second defender was Emperor's Children, and then they decided to defend with the Eldari. We offered them Sisters and Yunari. They offered us CSM Votan, and we ended up with Tau Space Marines on the light board, predicting a win. We had AdMech and Death Guard on the heavy board, predicting a 3. I think it was a mistake for them to take the heavy board there, because on that map, what that does is the heavy board pushes the ruins really far back towards your deployment zone, which increases the distance and reduces the amount of safe OC you can put on that objective. Mm-hmm. So it's harder to deep strike on and to get vision in that point, but it does make it really hard to stage from that ruin. So the EC, looking at the Creations of Bile, predicted a win there. Opposite of what Lee got in your game, Chris, but that's what he thought he was going to get. Sisters into the Eldari, predicting a loss, and then our Yunari into Votan, predicting a win. So my game was super interesting. I was able to... let me just double check. I believe I went first in this one. Pretty sure. No, sorry, I went second. So, of course, that's what happened. So I deployed... What's really funny about this game is I deployed Shadow Sun really aggressively. And I was like, I'll just redeploy her back if I need to, based on his deployment. And based on his deployment, he had 5 scouts in front of her. And I was like, I mean, grenades are bad, but it's not that big of a deal. So I think I just left her where she was. And so he gets first turn. He moves forward. He ends up not grenading her and just shooting her. Now, Shadow Sun is -1 to hit and -1 to wound. And this is all a bunch of AP0 shooting. And she just took 5 wounds on 3 up armor saves. Despite the -1 to hit, -1 to wound. She just failed a bunch of saves. And I was like, well, that's not very good. So he charged, and then I ended up heroically intervening with a ghost kill into them because he had secure, and the way he'd done his charge, he only had 3 models left on the point. So if I could charge in, have the ghost kill on the point, if Shadow Sun lives, that is him losing his secure. Yeah. That would have been pretty big. Unfortunately, I rolled a 3 on the charge, couldn't make it to the objective, and Shadow Sun died anyway. So none of that mattered.
It's a strong start to the game.
So yeah, it wasn't the best start. But we managed to get some points. We got an early recover assets. I think recover assets is the one you want. You want to get it on turn 1 if you get to get it at all. So it's pretty easy to score. I was able to pick up the scouts and just do some, maneuvering, some positioning. Basically, what I wanted to do was have double Riptide and a Ghost Keel. I would have wanted Shadow Sun, but she's dead now. On the objective, looking straight down the corner yet again onto the other objective. He puts any Marines on there. They're going to get Riptided. That was my game plan, and I was setting up for that. Then comes round to Cameron's turn 2, and unfortunately, he did make a really big mistake here by his own admission. He decided not to go into a Doctrine, and he spent a CP to put one of his Vindicators in the Doctrine. So he had 2 Vindicators behind a wall. And then what he was going to do was advance one of the Vindicators forward, get it in range of a Ghost Kill, kill it, because I had taken 3 wounds off myself with a hazardous roll. And then the other one was going to go forward and shoot the Skyra that I'd exposed. Because he had a solo captain with the 2-up, 5-up, Feel No Pain enhancement. It was just
armor.
Yeah, he was just sat on the middle. So I put a Skyray out to shoot him. And I did kill him. But so he was going to try and put the Vindicators in. The problem is he had measured like they both had the strat, but they didn't both have the strat. And he didn't realize until after he'd done all his movement. And he looked at it and he was like, I've only got 1 Vindicator here. They can't both shoot the Skyray and the Ghost Kill. So he kind of... and the problem is 1 Vindicator doesn't kill a Ghost Kill either. And in this, because he put his first oath on the Skyray, which he now could not kill, and his second oath on the Ghost Kill, so he didn't get the second oath because he didn't kill the first target. It just didn't kill the Ghost Kill, so he didn't do any wounds to it because of the drones. So that next turn, my fusion suits were able to come down, kill that Vindicator. I was able to crossboard and start cleaning up Marines that were trying to hold these various points. My breaches came on. I'm able to shoot his low knock lieutenant that he'd also put on that objective, because I was like, that guy needs to die because I can't kill him from a long distance. So I brought those in, killed him as well, which just left him with dreadnoughts to put on the point, which only lives so long against the Riptide. And then it kind of, and of course the other thing, he also tried to run his Company of Heroes with Calgar across the middle to tag my Devilfish, which he did do that and he did kill it, but the exact same thing happened as the last game. Breachers got out, Skyrays looked at him, it just picked up that whole unit, unfortunately. It just doesn't survive to that level of Tau firepower. Calgar did survive on 1 wound. He did get overwatched to death next turn, unfortunately.
Nice.
He did kind of like leave it as the very last thing to move, and like, I'll just move him forward. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to just forget to overwatch him before you go to your shooting phase. Don't
We've
worry.
all been there. I'm just going to move this, and then I'll move this, and you're just hoping they're not paying attention.
Exactly. But that kind of left me in a very strong control of the game. My fusion suits were able to fly forward, kill another Vindicator. They ended up getting charged by some what are they called, infiltrators that came off the home objective on the last turn. It was quite funny actually, because I looked at him. I was going to shoot him with the commander, and he says, "Oh well, you better roll it because if 1 lives, that's quite a big deal." I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. So I rolled it. I rolled 666 for sustain 2, and did 9 hits with 3 gunshots. And
why not?
And absolutely smoked those guys with no mercy. So that was pretty funny. The problem was he just couldn't hold primary on that map against Tau with the way that was set up, and then was unfortunately a few mistakes from him as well. So I was able to get a 15-5 out of that one. It was a really good game. I really had to play that team again soon. They were super cool, all really good guys. They looked like a really good team. They really had their shit together in terms of pairings and stuff like that. Their Votan player, Rob played, had a really cool 3D printed Votan army. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I thought it looked really funky and cool because it was like they were all kind of like slightly alternative models. But in terms of the teams overall, I got a 15-5. Admech got their 10 into the Death Guard as predicted. EC got the 14-6 into the CSM. The Sisters Eldari came back with 5 points, again, which is what we thought he was going to get. And then Yonari had a kind of a swing down with not having the because the voter had the bottom of 10, and Rob did bounce a little bit on one of the turns and got an 11-9 win, which put us on another 55. So we just kind of barely got through again, bringing us to a final score of 3-2.
So, if you were to reflect on the weekend, like how did you guys feel it went?
Yeah, I mean it was really good. I mean, I had like at minimum 3 games that were like A+ enjoyment, like sportsmanship level games. You know, that I really had a lot of fun, like in terms of that. The team were once again, I mean, several of the guys I played multiple team events with, so you know, I'm able to sort of work with them really well on this, and they're able to just about tolerate me, my pairings requirements of people. But yeah, it was really enjoyable. I'll be honest, man, I don't know if I can do this Tau army anymore. It really is miserable to play.
Yeah.
It is insufferable. So I think I'm just not booking any events for myself in future. I'm going to put that money towards Imperial Guard models until they change Tau, because it is just absolutely like pulling teeth.
I mean,
at
I
this
didn't
point.
see any other Tau. Like, we didn't play into a team with Tau. I barely saw. I genuinely can't remember seeing any Tau on the tabletop. I'm sure there were some, but
Yeah, Mine Goblins had Carl Grundy with Tau.
course,
That's what he plays. But yeah, it's just not fun like to do. It's not like the act of playing that army is not enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's hard to put it into words exactly.
Yeah.
But we are going to do a members video talking about Tau and how they and maybe potential changes they want to see. So if you want to see that, you can sign up for to be a subscriber, to be a member on the channel, and you can see it early.
There was 13 Tau players at the event.
13 they were out of 370.
They were pretty middle of the road, to be fair, but they often are. They're a very popular army in general. But in terms of that, we didn't unfortunately meet my goal of pushing ourselves up that one tier from our usual 3-2 to a 4-1. I said I just wanted to try and so we could improve a little bit from last time. But you know, I'm still happy with the way that we played it. I think again I've learned a lot about my teammates and how they do their matrices, how they like to play, which you know is just is more learning for next time. And overall I'm super happy with the way the event went down, how the team worked out, and all of that. So can't wait well, maybe not the next one, depends if they change Tau.
Yeah.
The one after that I'll probably have a guard at me, so I can't wait for that one.
There you are. Lovely. Excellent. Right, well, there are a few certain things in life. Death, taxes, and Alpharius playing Vanguard tactics. We have played into Vanguard tactics for the last 3 ITTs. The first time we lost by like 1 point, 2 points. The second time we got a winning draw. The third time we lost by 1 point. And as we looked at the teams we could draw, you know, there was an England team, there was a Mind Goblins team, there was Sigil. But realistically, there was only one team we were ever going to play, which was Vanguard Tactics. So I was buzzing for this, I'll be honest with you. I felt this was probably our best chance at beating them because we felt like we were in good form. We felt like our team composition was really good. And yeah, we were just flying high. So bring it on. And as is always the case, it was incredibly close and incredibly dramatic, which, you know, is what you want in the final round, right? So they had Ben Jones on Green Tide Orcs. No one wants to play Green Tide Orcs, so that's not a great start. They've got Jay on Imperial Knights. Knight, not really. Many people want to play Knights these days. Depends on your army, of course. They've got Boxy on Custodes. Custodes can sometimes just roll 1 billion 4-ups, and Stephen Box, obviously a very good player. They then got Jordan on Blood Angels. Jordan, currently, actually, I believe, #1 Blood Angels player in the whole of the UK, according to UKTC rankings. They've got Jake on Votan, who, Jake, obviously the most handsome man in 40k and an absolute legend and just an all-round nice guy. But, he's not had the best event so far. I know he wasn't enjoying the list at all. So we're looking down the line and we're like, well, if we can manage the Green Tide and Custodians don't get to do their thing, if we can try and take down the Blood Angels, take down the Votan, take down the Knights, then we've got this, guys. We've got this. So we decided, in a shocking turn of events, to finally do what the original game plan had been, which was to put down Guard first and look for the light board. And they put down Green Tide, which meant that we gave Green Tide the choice of CK or Bile. Bile could chew through it. CK, we felt, could probably hold it. And into Guard, they gave Harley Imperial Knights or Votan. Now, if we're basically at this point, I am flying high. I'm like, give me something I want to. I don't want Knights. I don't mind playing Custodians, but it can be swingy. Obviously, I don't want to play Green Tide in a million years. That's absolutely ridiculous.
You have a problem with Orcs, though, don't you?
Huh?
You've got a real problem with Orcs.
I really do have a real problem with Orcs. But on top of that, it's an appalling matchup. So yeah, give me Blood Angels. I'm like, basically, give me Blood Angels or Votan, and I'll bring back a win. I'll do my best there. Custodians, I can play the Knights, but it's not great. It feels like a waste of Yanari. And yeah, Custodians are Custodians. So again, pairings went pretty well. I do think we won pairings here. Alex, Chaos Knights into the Orcs, which we've got down as a draw. Guard into Imperial Knights on the light board. Who knows? But Harley's won all his games so far. He's flying high. We're going to back Harley there. JP into box. Now, JP reckons it's drawish, maybe a slight loss, but, that's fine. Lee, CSM into Blood Angels. They're going to punch each other to pieces and see who comes out on top there. I get Jake's Votan. Now, this is probably the best game for me. Very interestingly, I think they saw it differently. I know they told Jake that it was at least a draw for him and he just needed to push into me, which I'm very sure is wrong. Like Alex, the previous round was like, definitely don't want to play Yanari. So Jacob told them it was a 2, like a loss. I was told my team it was a 4, but we got the matchup. And the story of this round is that basically across the whole round, Alex is constantly telling us it's going to be a 10, it's going to be a 10. That's a major relief. We've done the theory, but we are slightly worried that Green Tide might just somehow get through the Knights and just win on. Just because we all know Scorched Earth is quite a drawish mission. Yeah. But Alex is holding firm. Harley and Jay are shooting a living crap out of each other, and who knows how that goes, but seems to be going okay-ish. Lee is still doing fine into Blood Angels. He feels okay. I feel like I'm in control of my game and looking at like a 12 or 13 point win because I just don't see really a route into breaking him down to try and get a bigger win. The problem is the JP Custodies or box game because box decides turn 2 to go all in. And JP just bounces and then bounces again. Apparently box spent his whole time like apologising for his dice. I think 3 Exocrines managed to kill 1 Custodian Guard and 2 Venatari or something like that. He was just making an ungodly amount and just suddenly starting to flip that matchup. And eventually, scores start coming in. Harley manages to make a 9-inch charge near the end and grabs a 13-7 win. Excellent. On to a winner.
To be fair, I think he had 5 units try that 9-inch charge.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm understanding here. He didn't get
One of them will do it.
What's the odds of that then?
Just keep rolling all of them and eventually get there. Lee comes in with the 14-6 win into the Blood Angels. And we're like, okay, this is nice. Alex, let's remember round 1. He had never played Chaos Knights before and lost 0-20. And in round 5, he beat Ben Jones, who's just come off the back of winning a super major. He beat Ben 12-8. Huge work from the boss man.
It's like I was saying before, if you push into that, there's every chance that it all just goes wrong. Like all
just
it takes
goes
is
wrong.
Green Tide failing a couple of random battle shock tests, and all of a sudden you lose a bunch of primary. So.
And I think I should mention here that in every single game we went second, which obviously gives us a bit of an advantage in terms of trying to get those burns off at the end. The JP game is going, unfortunately, more and more south. And I've got Harley pacing around and telling me, just push, just get stuff done. I'm on like turn 4. And I'm like, how much do I go all in here? I can commit everything. Jake and I have played this really cagey game. I did manage to get it over to his home field turn 2 and deny 5 primary there. But Jake is just drawing consistently good cards. And I have one bad secondary turn. So although I've managed to deny him primary, we're still neck and neck on scoring. And he's just holding back. And he kept telling his coach kept coming over and being like, how's the game going? He's like, well, it's drawish at the moment, but at some point soon, the Inari are going to push at me, and I don't know how badly it's going to go. And we get to the point where JP is now looking like he's probably only going to get a couple of points. So I'm like, right, I guess I've got to try and really push here. So I do send out most of my army turn 4. And then it comes back that JP's got a 0. So Harley does the maths, and I need 16 points for us to win the round. Now, at this point, I was no bloody chance. Like, I'm at best looking at a 14 here. And we have 5 minutes left on the clock. The scores are basically tied, and it's my turn. And it's, can I pull out this huge kind of lead, because I've got options for burns and cards and all that sort of thing. And I think at this point I need to say a huge thank you and give massive credit to Jake. I am basically so in the zone, I've blocked everything out. I only realised afterwards that you've got the whole of VT, the whole of Alpharius, you've got a whole host of other people just stood around the table staring at us. And Jake is literally there going, right, how many points can you score? Let's work it out. And in so many situations, other people will just shut up shop and be like, well, off you go. Good luck. But I've drawn Established Locus, which gets me a 4. And I have drawn Bring It Down. Now, he's got 3 Sagittars left and a land fort left. And I'm like, we're working it out, and I'm like, so I'm going for the home field burn. Then I work out, actually, I don't need it because I'm already on 45 primary, so I'm going to get 50 just from a normal burn. And we do the maths, and we work out that I can get the 16-4 win if I kill 2 Sagittars and the land fort. So I start that process, and then we suddenly remember that his berserks are burning an objective, and actually I need to kill the berserks as well to stop the burn. So I've now got to kill Sagittar, another Sagittar, a land fort, and 10 berserks. So at this point I've got about 2 minutes left on the clock. And we just start rolling dice. So 10 Dark Reapers line up a Sagittar. Boom. Dead. 5 Fire Dragons line up land fort. Boom. Dead. The problem is this middle Sagittar, which is the only thing I can get to. I think it's on like 4 wounds, and the only thing I can get to it is your range shooting before they charge into the Berserk Brick. So I'm like, well, I'll just fire your range gun, which is not a flamer, and I will hopefully roll a bunch of death wound 6s. and I roll 3 6s, and I roll 3 6s, and I leave it on 1 wound. So I'm like, right, 5 rangers are going to charge in there. Let's see if they can kill a Sagittarian one wound. At which point, the Incubi brick then slams into the Berserks, and we see if we can get it done. Harley's just pointed out in the chat that those Berserkers should have taken a battle shock, and if they failed that, the burn would have stopped.
Yeah, the leadership 6 probably would have passed it anyway.
Yeah, probably would have passed it. The reality is we were all so rushed. I don't even know if I rolled enough Ynnari dice or Incubi dice, to be honest with you. I was just rolling what I thought was roughly 30 dice and chewing through it. I don't think on average I do kill the Berserk squad.
How many did you have?
How many? What did I have?
Buy?
I had all 10.
All 10? Oh,
All
you
10.
probably should kill that.
I maxed it out, and actually, because it's 2 damage and I got a 5 up, feel no pain. Because I didn't have the reroll ones to hit, so it's 30 attacks, 20 hits.
They on 3s?
And then Incubi hit on 3s, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, probably is pretty close then.
And then I'm wounding on 5s rerolling, that's the other thing. And
Yeah.
it's 2 damage, he's got the 5 up, feel no pain. And some of them have 3 wounds. And I end up killing 6. And the Rangers also fail to kill the Sagittarius, obviously. So it finishes as a 14-6, and we hugged it out. And to be honest with you, obviously I was like gutted at the time, but in retrospect, I'm quite glad because I think Jake got shafted there by his team. I think he should never have been told that was a good matchup for him.
Nah.
Because turn 1, he was like, "So I've just been told I just need to push," and then he looked at the board and was like, "Well, how do I push?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, that is the thing. You will push, and I will just kill you." So this is a bad matchup for you, and I would have felt really bad for him if things had gone south and he'd actually lost that game, and by enough to lose the round. So the round finished 53-47. We were 2 points off beating Vanguard Tactics. We worked out that if we'd got 5 more points, we would have ended up in the final. Which on any other day and on normal dice, JP could quite easily have got a 5 into Boxy, and that would have put us into the final. So again, so close, and yet so far we ended up finishing 7th. I think this was probably the most comfortable we felt as a team in all of the ITTs I've been to, and I've done a lot now. Obviously, we were missing Ed and Tom, but previously, what this did really emphasize is how important having a good team composition is. I was, as a Ynnari player, really able to be paired into stuff that I was feeling confident to beat. I didn't ever have to fulfill like that more like blunting role because we had a good composition which enabled us to take on kind of deal with all the other things. So we were really happy with the composition. I wouldn't change it at all. And generally pairings went fine. I think, as I said, 4 out of the 5 games we felt like we had comfortably won pairings, and we were confident after that. And everyone did their job right. Like Harley won all of his games, got some big wins and some little wins into some tough ones. He was always our banker if we needed it because he could just take on anything. JP built his list to hunt Eldari, and he did that twice really successfully and was able to draw or win big in other 2 games. Obviously, the box game happened, but that just happens sometimes in teams. Lee's bio list, we only had that 1 punchy combat list. Quite often we've gone in with 2 and it's been too many. So having 1 of that was really nice. Alex's CK, as we've seen, can win big but can just hold on and just play that slow feeding primary Dinar game, which is invaluable in teams. And I was able to get some nice pairings and finally win some games. So it worked really well all round as a team. I personally have done a video which I'll release this week on my run with Ynnari. I did come 8th out of 370 people, so I was really happy with that. So I will talk through everything I learned in terms of using Ynnari for that video, and I know Harley is thinking of doing a guard one as well. But yeah, a very fun weekend overall. Any parting thoughts from you guys on teams, on the ITT, on how your weekend was, Scrivo?
I think my biggest kind of thing that I felt was really nice was the fact that I did an RTT 2 weeks before to test the list. So I felt a lot more comfortable going into it because I'd actually got a good couple of reps in with it, rather than just panicking and taking something I wasn't too sure about, but was trying to think too hard about what the meta could be. Just kind of going with something I could play well. I think did more for the team composition overall.
Lovely. And Jack?
I don't think it was my strongest weekend in terms of doing pairings. I think I could have done a little bit better. Like now going back over it, talking to them, I was like one or two things. Maybe I could have switched it up. Yeah, I regret not putting my best foot forward on that one. But the beauty of this game is there's always another game, right? So you can always just do better next time. Yeah. So we can do better next time on that front. In terms of like comp, Tower is always going to be a bit of a weak spot, particularly on the first 3 games. You pick it back up on the last 2 on the ITT boards, but you do feel like a bit of a liability on the first 2 rounds. And obviously, unlike yourself, I found the Yanari to be very flat in their pairings. I don't know if that's us being pessimistic on them, but yeah, that didn't do as well as I hoped. I was hoping for it to get like pretty decent points most rounds, in the terms of like we could pair it into good matchups most rounds, but I found I wasn't able to do that very often. And the EC were very good as well. I was very happy with what the EC did, and how the AdMech were able to scare people in the pairings into. That was pretty cool as well. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff there. A lot of stuff learned. A lot of fun had. It was a really good team in terms of getting all the matrix done, because that's my favorite bit about doing teams, is doing all the matrix and the pairings and stuff. So I was really happy to have a team that was super cooperative with that on that front, and we were able to all sort of work together on it. A lot of discussion, a lot of prep had, and it's generally just a really great time all around. So thank you very much to my team for making that such an enjoyable experience for me.
Yeah, we at 6++, we all absolutely love teams, apart from Davey. And we like to do as many as we can. And we've got plenty more banked. We'll be sending a whole host of different teams to various events. And I would just like to finish with the breaking news that the 6++ Grand Tournament South is fully sold out in one evening. So, woo. Go us. Can't wait to see you all at that event at the end of August. But yeah, that's been a humdinger. I hope everyone who's listens to this has enjoyed the recap, whether you're hobbying or driving, and you have enjoyed yourself. And service will resume as normal. We'll allow Tom back on next Tuesday.
Are you sure?
Well, he did pretty well without him this weekend, but we'll see. But no, Tom will be back next Tuesday. And I'm sure we've got something very exciting concocted for you there. So it's been a pleasure. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.